My name is Han Minyu, and I've been told all my life that beauty is both a blessing and a curse. At 28, I've come to understand the weight of those words more than I ever wanted to. The fluorescent lights of my office had long since been turned off by the cleaning staff when I finally packed my briefcase that Friday evening. As the head of marketing at one of Seoul's premier advertising firms, late nights were nothing new to me. Hard work had always been my compass, the one thing I could control in a world that seemed determined to judge me by my appearance rather than my accomplishments. I loosened my tie as I walked toward the parking garage, my footsteps echoing in the empty corridor. The late autumn air hit me as I stepped outside, crisp and tinged with the promise of winter. I pulled my coat tighter around myself, my Omega instincts making me more sensitive to the cold than most. My Mercedes sat waiting in its usual spot, sleek and black under the dim garage lighting. But when I turned the key in the ignition, nothing happened. Not even a sputter. I tried again. Nothing. No, I muttered, checking my phone. Nearly midnight and my battery was at 5%. Perfect. I should have called for help right then, but pride, or perhaps stubbornness, made me think I could handle this myself. I got out and opened the hood, though I knew as much about car engines as I did about quantum physics. The Gangnam district was safe enough, but this particular side street, away from the main roads, had a reputation after dark. Need some help, pretty thing? My blood ran cold. 3 alphas emerged from the shadows, their intentions written plainly in their leering grins. I could smell the alcohol on them even from several feet away, mixed with the acrid scent of aggressive alpha pheromones that made my Omega instincts scream in warning. I'm fine, thank you, I said, keeping my voice steady as I reached for my phone. Dead. Of course it was dead. Don't be like that, the tallest one said, moving closer. A gorgeous Omega like you shouldn't be out here alone. We just want to keep you company. I backed away, my heart hammering against my ribs. My husband will be here any moment. They laughed, closing in. Sure he will. Come on, let us show you a good time. The sound of car doors slamming made everyone freeze. 5 men in dark suits appeared as if materializing from the night itself, moving with deadly precision. But it was the 6th man who commanded every bit of attention in that parking garage. Dong-wook. Even before I knew his name, I understood power when I saw it. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with sharp features that looked carved from marble. His eyes were dark and intense, sweeping over the scene with an assessment that took mere seconds. When those eyes landed on me, something electric passed between us. Gentlemen, his voice was smooth, almost pleasant, but underneath it ran a current of absolute authority. I believe you're making this Omega uncomfortable. The 3 alphas were drunk, but not drunk enough to miss the danger standing before them. They scattered like cockroaches when the lights come on, disappearing into the night without another word. Dong-wook approached me slowly as if afraid he might startle me. Are you all right? I nodded, surprised to find my hands shaking now that the danger had passed. Yes, thank you. My car broke down. Let me take you home, he said. It wasn't quite a question, but neither was it a command. It's not safe here. Something in me, the part that had learned never to trust offers that seemed too good to be true, wanted to refuse. But another part, the part that was tired and scared and still trembling with adrenaline, simply nodded. His car was a black Bentley, the interior smelling of leather and expensive cologne. One of his men must have stayed behind to deal with my Mercedes, because Dong-wook slid into the driver's seat himself. Where do you live? I gave him my address in Cheongdam-dong, and his eyebrows rose slightly. Impressive neighborhood for someone so young. I work hard, I said, perhaps more defensively than necessary. A slight smile touched his lips. I don't doubt it. I'm Dong-wook, by the way. Park Dong-wook. Han Minyu, I replied, and then because his name sparked recognition, wait, Park Dong-wook? The Park Dong-wook. His smile widened. That depends on which Park Dong-wook you've heard of. Everyone in Seoul knew the name. Park Dong-wook controlled half the city's underground, though nothing could ever be proven in court. He was wealthy beyond measure, powerful beyond question, and dangerous beyond imagination. And he was driving me home. I should be terrified, I said quietly. Should be. He glanced at me, those dark eyes unreadable. But I'm not. You saved me tonight. Thank you. We drove in comfortable silence for a while, the city lights blurring past the windows. When we reached my building, Dong-wook parked and turned to face me fully. Han Minyu, he said my name like he was tasting it. Would you have dinner with me tomorrow night? I should have said no. Every rational part of my brain screamed at me to say no. But when I looked into his eyes, I saw something unexpected. Genuine interest, yes, but also a loneliness that mirrored my own. Yes, I heard myself say. I would like that. His smile was radiant, transforming his severe features into something almost boyish. I'll pick you up at 7. Dinner turned into many dinners. Dinners turned into long walks through the city, coffee dates, and stolen moments between our busy schedules. Dong-wook was nothing like his reputation suggested. Yes, he was powerful and commanding, but with me he was gentle, attentive, and surprisingly romantic. He would send flowers to my office, not roses but peonies, because I'd mentioned once that they were my favorite. He remembered how I took my coffee, what movies made me cry, and the exact way I liked my ramen prepared. For the first time in my life, someone looked past my appearance and saw me, really saw me. 3 months after that night in the parking garage, Dong-wook took me to a private restaurant overlooking the Han River. The entire place had been reserved just for us, candles casting warm light over the elegantly set table. "Min-yu," he said, reaching across the table to take my hand. His touch sent familiar shivers through me. These past few months have been the happiest of my life. Before I met you, I thought I had everything I needed: power, money, respect. But you've shown me what I was really missing: purpose, joy, love. My breath caught in my throat as he stood and moved to kneel beside my chair. I know my life is complicated. I know I can't promise you a normal, peaceful existence. But I can promise to love you with everything I am, to protect you, to cherish you for all my days. Han Min-yu, will you marry me? Tears streamed down my face as I looked at the ring he held, a simple platinum band with a single diamond, elegant and perfect. Yes, I whispered. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring onto my finger and kissed me, a kiss full of promise and passion, a kiss that tasted like forever. Our wedding 6 months later was the event of the season. Dong-wook had wanted to give me everything, and he had. A ceremony at the Shilla Hotel, attended by Seoul's elite, with flowers flown in from around the world and a dress custom-made in Paris. I had worn a traditional white hanbok for the ceremony, then changed into an elegant suit for the reception, feeling like I was living in a dream. When Dong-wook looked at me that day, his eyes shining with love and pride, I believed with all my heart that we would have the perfect life together. The first few months of marriage were blissful. Dong-wook would come home every evening and we would have dinner together, talking about our days. He would hold me at night, his strong arms making me feel safe and cherished. We talked about the future, about the family we would build together, about the children we both wanted. "I want at least 2, I had said one night, nestled against his chest. "Maybe 3. "Whatever makes you happy," he had murmured against my hair. "I can already imagine them, beautiful like you, with your smile and your kind heart." But slowly, imperceptibly at first, things began to change. Dong-wook's business dealings grew more complex, more demanding. He would come home later and later, often after I'd already fallen asleep. Our dinners together became rare, then almost non-existent. And our physical intimacy, the connection that should have bound us together as Alpha and Omega, as husband and husband, disappeared entirely. It had been 30 months since our wedding, and Dong-wook hadn't touched me in an intimate way for over 2 years. I told myself I understood. His business was demanding, stressful. He was tired. But understanding didn't fill the growing emptiness inside me, the loneliness that crept in during the long evenings I spent alone in our beautiful home. He still loved me, I never doubted that. He would kiss my forehead before leaving for work, would text me throughout the day to check on me. And he spoiled me materially in every way imaginable. When I mentioned I liked a particular necklace I saw in a magazine, it appeared on my dresser the next morning. When I admired a car showroom we passed, he bought me the car the following week. Our closet was filled with designer clothes I never wore, jewelry boxes overflowing with pieces too expensive for casual wear. But what I wanted, what I desperately needed, couldn't be bought in any store. I wanted my husband. I wanted his touch, his attention, his presence. I wanted to start the family we had dreamed about. I wanted to feel like I mattered more than just another business obligation to be managed. "Min-yu, you look radiant as always," my friend Jin-woo said, smiling across the table at the cafe where we'd met for lunch. His hand rested protectively on his swollen belly, 6 months pregnant with his first child. I tried to return his smile, but it felt hollow. Jin-woo had married his alpha, Tae-hyun, a full year after Dong-wook and I had wed. And now he was glowing with the happiness of impending parenthood while I sat across from him, empty and aching. "When are you and Dong-wook planning to start trying?" Jin-woo asked innocently. "You've been married longer than us. I bet you'd make the most beautiful parent." The question pierced straight through my carefully maintained composure. "We've been busy," I managed. Jin-woo's expression softened with understanding. "Min-yu, is everything okay?" And just like that, the dam broke. Tears I'd been holding back for months spilled down my cheeks as I told him everything. The loneliness, the distance, the lack of intimacy, the desperate yearning for something more than material comfort. "He loves you," Jin-woo said gently, squeezing my hand. "Anyone can see that. Maybe he just needs to be reminded what's important." I drove home that afternoon with Jean Woo's words echoing in my mind, but they provided little comfort. When I walked into our penthouse, the silence greeted me like an old friend. I stood in the middle of our pristine living room, surrounded by luxury, and felt utterly, completely alone. The tears came again, harder this time. I sank onto the sofa, clutching a cushion to my chest, and let myself cry for the marriage I'd imagined, for the family I'd dreamed of, for the connection I'd lost. That's how Dong-wook found me when he came home at midnight. Minyu? His voice was alarmed as he rushed to my side, his briefcase hitting the floor with a thud. What's wrong? What happened? I looked up at him through tear-blurred eyes, this beautiful, powerful man who I loved more than life itself, who somehow couldn't see what he was doing to me. Please, I choked out, please just look at me. Really look at me. See me, Dong-wook. Where is the man I married? The one who used to hold me and talk to me and make me feel like I mattered. His face paled. Minyu, you do matter. You're everything to me. Then why do I feel so alone? The words burst from me like a wound finally opened. We've been married for 30 months and you haven't touched me in 2 years. We talked about having children, about building a family. But how can we do that when you're never here? Even when you are here, you're somewhere else in your mind. I'm sorry, he said, reaching for me, but I pulled away. I don't want another apology. I don't want another gift or another car or another piece of jewelry. I want you, Dong-wook. I want my husband back. My voice broke. I want a baby. I want to give you a child, to create a family with you. But I can't do that alone. He looked stricken, his usual composure completely shattered. Minyu, please, I whispered. Please I need to be alone right now. I fled to our bedroom, closing the door behind me, and cried myself to sleep on sheets that smelled like my husband but felt so cold without his presence. When I woke the next morning, Dong-wook had already left for work. But there was a note on my nightstand in his familiar handwriting. I'm sorry. I love you. We'll talk tonight. And there, in the garage, sat a brand new Lamborghini, gleaming like a promise I wasn't sure he could keep. I stared at the car for a long moment, feeling something hard and painful settle in my chest. He'd done it again, tried to solve an emotional problem with material wealth. I should have been angry, but mostly I just felt tired. The days that followed were a blur. Dong-wook made an effort to come home earlier to have dinner with me, to ask about my day. But the physical distance remained, an invisible wall between us that neither of us seemed able to breach. He would kiss my cheek goodnight, then turn away, falling asleep with his back to me. It was Jean Woo during another lunch meeting who sparked the idea. Taehyun was like that before, he confessed. So focused on providing for us that he forgot I needed more than financial security. You know what snapped him out of it? Jealousy. I raised my eyebrows. Jealousy? One of his business partners started paying a lot of attention to me at a company dinner. Nothing inappropriate, just friendly conversation. But Taehyun lost his mind. That night he finally opened up about his fears, about not being enough, about failing as a provider. Once we talked through it, everything changed. An idea began forming in my mind, dangerous and desperate. But desperate times called for desperate measures. I started going out more, making sure to look my absolute best. I would mention casual meetings with friends, but keep the details vague. I'd smile at my phone and laugh at messages, sometimes from actual friends, sometimes from no one at all. I'd come home smelling like different colognes from passing through department stores. I hated the deception, but I was fighting for my marriage, for the connection I knew still existed somewhere beneath Dong-wook's walls of responsibility and stress. It didn't take long for him to notice. Who were you meeting today? He asked one evening, his tone carefully casual. Just a friend, I replied, deliberately vague. What friend? Someone from work. No one you know. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. You seem to have a lot of meetings with people I don't know lately. I shrugged, turning away to hide my expression. I have my own life, Dong-wook. You're busy with yours, I'm busy with mine. The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. Over the following weeks, I watched my husband slowly unravel. He started calling me more during the day. He'd ask detailed questions about where I'd been, who I'd seen. His eyes would track me constantly when we were in the same room. The casual alpha confidence that usually surrounded him like an aura began showing cracks. I came home one evening to find him in the living room, clearly having come home early. His eyes were dark, intense, tracking my every movement. You're home early, I said, setting down my bag. Who were you with? His voice was tight, controlled. I told you I had lunch with. Don't? He stood abruptly. Don't lie to me, Minyu. I've had people following you. My heart stopped. You what? I needed to know. He ran a hand through his hair, the gesture frustrated and almost desperate. I needed to know who you were, if you were. He couldn't finish the sentence. If I was what, Dongwook? Cheating on you? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's rich, considering you haven't touched me in 2 years. I know, he said, his voice breaking. I know, and it's killing me. Watching you smile at your phone, coming home smelling like places I haven't been, thinking that someone else might be. He stopped, his fists clenched at his sides. I'm losing my mind, Minyu. I can't eat, can't sleep, can't focus on anything because all I can think about is you with someone else. Then tell me, I challenged, what are you going to do about it? The air between us crackled with tension, months of unspoken words and unmet needs creating an almost visible pressure. Dongwook's eyes were wild, possessive, filled with an emotion I hadn't seen in so long I'd almost forgotten what it looked like, desire. I'm going to remind you, he said, his voice dropping to a low growl, exactly who you belong to. My phone buzzed with a message and purely on instinct I glanced at it. It was just Jin Woo asking about dinner plans, but Dongwook's expression transformed into something primal. In 3 long strides he crossed the room, pulling me into his arms with an urgency that stole my breath. His hand came up to cup my face, tilting it toward his. Look at me, he commanded. Only me. Dongwook. He silenced me with a kiss, fierce and possessive, claiming my mouth with a hunger that had been dormant for far too long. I gasped against his lips and he deepened the kiss, his tongue sliding against mine in a dance of dominance and need. My back hit the wall, I hadn't even realized we'd been moving, and Dongwook pressed his body against mine, letting me feel every hard plane of muscle, every tremor of desire running through him. Mine? He growled against my lips. You're mine, Minyu. Only mine. His hands were everywhere, threading through my hair, sliding down my sides, pulling me closer as if he could merge our bodies through sheer will. When he pulled back to look at me, his eyes were nearly black with desire, his breathing ragged. I've been an idiot, he said, his voice rough. A complete fool. While I was out trying to build an empire for you, I forgot that you needed me, not my money. You needed your husband, your alpha, and I abandoned you. Tears slipped down my cheeks. I just wanted you to see me. I see you, he promised, kissing the tears away. I see you, and you're beautiful, and you're mine, and I'm never letting you feel alone again. He lifted me into his arms, carrying me toward our bedroom with purposeful strides. The door barely closed behind us before he was kissing me again, laying me down on our bed with a gentleness that contrasted with the fierce hunger in his eyes. Tell me you're mine, he demanded, his hands working on the buttons of my shirt. Tell me there's no one else. There's no one else, I assured him, reaching up to cup his face. There's only you, Dongwook. There's only ever been you. I needed you to see what you were doing to us. He groaned, pressing his forehead against mine. I'm so sorry, my Omega. I'm so sorry for making you feel like you had to do that. His hand slid beneath my shirt, pushing it off my shoulders, his touch reverent and desperate all at once. When his lips followed the path of his hands, kissing along my collarbone, down my chest, I arched into him, finally feeling the connection I'd been craving. My beautiful husband, he murmured against my skin. How could I have been so blind? Our clothes disappeared piece by piece, and Dongwook worshipped every inch of skin revealed, as if memorizing me all over again. When he positioned himself above me, looking down with eyes full of love and desire, I felt complete for the first time in months. I love you, I whispered. I love you so much. I love you more, he replied, capturing my lips again as our bodies joined. The intimacy was intense, passionate, a reconnection of not just bodies but souls that had been apart for too long. Dongwook moved with purpose and tenderness, whispering words of love and devotion against my skin, making me feel cherished and desired and utterly, completely his. When we finally collapsed together, breathless and satisfied, he gathered me close, pressing kisses to my temple, my cheeks, my lips. I'm sorry, he said again. I'm so sorry, Minyu. I got so caught up in trying to provide for you, to build something worthy of you, that I forgot you just wanted me. I forgot that being a good husband means more than buying you things. It means being present, being attentive, being the partner you deserve. I snuggled closer, feeling safe and loved in his arms. I just need you, Dongwook. Not your money, not your gifts. Just you. You have me, he promised. All of me for the rest of our lives. And Minyu? Yes. About those children we talked about. He smiled, a genuine warm smile that lit up his face. Let's start trying. Let's build the family we've both been dreaming of. Joy flooded through me so intense it almost hurt. Really? Really? No more excuses, no more delays. I want to see you glowing with pregnancy, want to hold our child in my arms, want to build a life filled with love and laughter and everything we've been putting off. I kissed him, pouring all my happiness and relief and love into that kiss. Thank you, I whispered. Thank you for coming back to me. The change in Dong-wook was remarkable and immediate. He restructured his entire business operation, delegating more responsibilities to his trusted lieutenants, setting strict boundaries between work and home life. For the first time since our wedding, he came home at reasonable hours, joining me for dinner every evening. We really talked, about everything. About his fears of not being enough, of failing as a provider. About my loneliness and the desperate measures I'd resorted to. About our dreams for the future and the family we wanted to build. I was terrified, he admitted one night as we lay tangled together in bed. Terrified that I wouldn't be able to give you everything you deserved. My father worked himself to death trying to provide for us, and I thought that was what being a good husband meant. I forgot that my mother would have traded all his gifts for more time with him. I threaded my fingers through his hair, holding him close. I don't need you to work yourself to death for me. I just need you alive and present and here. I'm here, he promised. I'm not going anywhere. Our intimacy flourished, making up for the lost months. Dong-wook would come home and pull me into his arms, kiss me until we were both breathless, show me in countless ways how much he loved and desired me. The physical connection strengthened our emotional bond, bringing us closer than we'd ever been. 3 months after that pivotal night, I started feeling different. Tired more easily, sensitive to certain smells, emotional in ways I couldn't quite explain. When I mentioned it to Dong-wook, his eyes lit up with hope. Do you think? I took the test the next morning, my hands shaking as I waited for the result. When the positive sign appeared, I stared at it in disbelief and joy and overwhelming emotion. Dong-wook. I called out, my voice trembling. He appeared in the bathroom doorway within seconds, his expression anxious. What is it? Is everything okay? I held up the test, unable to speak through my tears. For a moment he just stared. Then a smile broke across his face, so brilliant and joyful it took my breath away. He swept me into his arms, spinning me around, laughing and crying at the same time. We're having a baby, he said, wonder in his voice. Minyu, we're having a baby. We're having a baby, I echoed, and we both dissolved into happy tears. That evening, Dong-wook insisted we celebrate. He cooked dinner himself, slightly burnt bulgogi and overcooked rice, but made with so much love I couldn't stop smiling. He kept touching my stomach, which wasn't showing yet, with an expression of awe and protectiveness. I can't believe there's a part of us growing in there, he said softly. A perfect combination of both of us. They're going to be so loved, I said, placing my hand over his. They'll be so spoiled, he corrected with a grin. Between us and their grandparents and uncles and Jin-woo, who will probably insist on being the favorite uncle, this child won't know what to do with all the attention. We laughed together, planning and dreaming about the future. The pregnancy was both challenging and beautiful. Morning sickness hit me hard in the first trimester, and Dong-wook was there every morning holding my hair back, bringing me crackers and ginger tea, canceling meetings without hesitation when I needed him. He came to every doctor's appointment, holding my hand as we heard the heartbeat for the first time, crying unashamedly at the first ultrasound when we saw our baby moving on the screen. That's our child, he whispered, squeezing my hand so tight it almost hurt. Our little miracle. As my belly grew, so did Dong-wook's protectiveness. He wouldn't let me lift anything heavy, insisted I rest frequently, made sure I ate properly. It might have been overwhelming if it wasn't so clearly coming from a place of deep love. You're growing our child, he said whenever I teased him about being overprotective. You're doing the most important work in the world. Let me take care of you. Jin-woo was ecstatic when we told him, immediately launching into advice about everything from labor to baby supplies. His own daughter, now 3 months old, was the light of his life, and seeing him with her made me even more excited for our own journey into parenthood. You're going to be amazing parents, Jin-woo said, watching as Dong-wook hovered nervously while I held baby Hannah. Anyone can see how much love there is between you two. My delivery came on a clear spring morning, 3 days past my due date. The labor was long and difficult, and there were moments when I wasn't sure I could do it. But Dong-wook was there through every contraction, every push, holding my hand and whispering encouragement. You're so strong, my Omega, he said, wiping the sweat from my forehead. Just a little more. You can do this. When our daughter finally arrived, tiny and perfect and screaming at the top of her lungs, I watched my powerful, dangerous husband transform into something tender and awed. She's perfect, he breathed, tears streaming down his face as the doctor placed her on my chest. Minyu, she's absolutely perfect. Our daughter, Park Min-ji, had my eyes and Dong-wook's nose, a perfect combination of both of us. She wrapped her tiny hand around her father's finger, and I watched him fall completely, irrevocably in love. Hello, my beautiful daughter, he whispered. I'm your papa. And I promise you, I'm going to spend every day of my life making sure you and your daddy know how loved you are. The first few months were exhausting and wonderful and sometimes overwhelming. But through it all, Dong-wook kept his promise. He was present, attentive, sharing every responsibility from diaper changes to midnight feedings. He would hold Min-ji for hours just watching her sleep, an expression of wonder on his face. "I almost missed this," he said one night as we sat together watching our daughter sleep in her bassinet. "I almost threw it all away because I was too focused on building an empire instead of building a family." "But you didn't," I said softly, leaning against his shoulder. "You found your way back to us." "Because of you," he said, pressing a kiss to my temple. "Because you fought for us, even when it meant making me jealous and uncomfortable. You loved me enough to do whatever it took to wake me up." I smiled, thinking back to those desperate days when I thought I was losing him. It was worth it. All of it was worth it to get to here. "I love you, Han Minyu," he said, pulling me close. "Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for this perfect life." "I love you too," I replied. "Always." As we sat there, watching our daughter sleep, surrounded by love and warmth and the life we'd built together, I realized that our story had never really been about the dramatic rescue or the lavish wedding or even the difficult journey through distance and reconnection. It was about two people who loved each other enough to fight for their relationship, to overcome obstacles, to build something real and lasting. It was about learning that true wealth wasn't measured in luxury cars or expensive gifts, but in moments like these, quiet, precious, filled with love. Min-ji stirred in her sleep, making a small sound, and Dong-wook immediately moved to check on her, his expression so tender it made my heart ache with happiness. This was the man I'd married, the man I'd always known he could be, present, loving, devoted. Our life together wasn't perfect. There were still challenges, still moments of difficulty. But we faced them together, as partners, as parents, as two people committed to choosing each other every single day. And as I watched my husband gentle our daughter back to sleep, singing a soft lullaby in his deep voice, I knew that every tear, every lonely night, every desperate moment had been worth it to reach this point. We had everything we needed. We had each other. We had our daughter. We had a love that had been tested and proven strong. We had our happy ending, and it was more beautiful than I ever could have imagined. 5 years later, I stood in the doorway of our living room, watching the scene before me with a full heart. Min-ji, now a precocious 5-year-old, was helping her father build a blanket fort, which mostly involved her draping fabric over his head while he pretended to be lost. "Papa, you're doing it wrong," she giggled. "Then you'll have to show me, princess," Dong-wook replied, his voice muffled by blankets. Our son, Park Jae-won, toddled over to join in, his 2-year-old coordination making him more hindrance than help, but neither Min-ji nor Dong-wook seemed to mind. I placed a hand on my stomach where our third child was growing and smiled. Life was chaotic, messy, perfect. "Need any help in there?" I called out. 3 heads popped out of the collapsing fort, 2 small ones and 1 much larger one, all grinning at me. "Daddy!" Min-ji shrieked, abandoning the fort to run to me. "We're building the best fort ever." Dong-wook extracted himself from the blankets, Jae-won clinging to his shoulders, and walked over to kiss me gently. "How are you feeling?" "Happy," I said simply. "So incredibly happy." And I was. Against all odds, through every obstacle, we had built the life we'd dreamed of, filled with love, laughter, and the family we'd both yearned for. Our story had begun with danger and distance, but it had transformed into something beautiful. And as I looked at my husband, our children, and the future we were building together, I knew that every moment of struggle had been worth it. This was our happy ending. And it was perfect. The house was finally quiet. After 3 bedtime stories, 2 glasses of water, and 1 monster check under Min-ji's bed, our children were finally asleep. I closed Jae-won's door softly, careful not to wake him, and padded down the hallway in my bare feet. Dong-wook was waiting in our bedroom, having just finished his own bedtime routine with Min-ji. He looked up as I entered, and the expression in his eyes made my breath catch. Love, desire, and something deeper that even after all these years still made my heart race. "They're finally down?" he asked, his voice low and warm. "Finally," I confirmed, moving toward him. Min-ji wanted to hear about how we met. Again. He smiled, reaching for me as I came within range. His hand settled on my hips, pulling me close. "It's a good story." "It's our story," I corrected, running my fingers through his hair. Even with the silver starting to thread through the black, he was still the most handsome man I'd ever seen. "Are you tired?" he asked, his thumbs tracing gentle circles on my hips through the thin fabric of my pajamas. I shook my head, feeling warmth bloom in my chest and lower. "Not that tired." His eyes darkened with understanding and want. "Good," he murmured, leaning in to press a kiss to my jaw, then lower to the sensitive spot just below my ear that always made me shiver. "Because I've been thinking about you all day." "Have you?" I tilted my head, giving him better access, feeling his lips curve into a smile against my skin. Constantly, he confirmed. Watching you with the children, seeing you glow with pregnancy again. Minyu, you're so beautiful. Every day I look at you and can't believe you're mine. I cupped his face, bringing his lips to mine in a kiss that started gentle but quickly deepened. His arms wrapped around me, one hand splaying across my lower back, the other tangling in my hair. The kiss spoke of years of love, of passion that hadn't dimmed but rather grown richer with time. I need you, I whispered against his lips when we finally broke apart, both of us breathing harder. I always need you. You have me, he promised, his voice rough with emotion and desire. Always. He guided me toward our bed, his movements unhurried but purposeful. We'd learned over the years that intimacy wasn't just about the physical connection. It was about the moments of tenderness, the whispered words, the way we could communicate without speaking. Dong-wook laid me down gently, mindful of my pregnancy, his hands reverent as they traced the curves of my body. You're glowing, he said softly, his palm resting on my rounded stomach. Carrying our child, there's nothing more beautiful. I reached up to pull him down to me, needing to feel his weight, his warmth, his presence. Make love to me, I requested softly. Show me how much you love me. Always, he breathed, capturing my lips again. Our clothes disappeared slowly, each piece removed with care and accompanied by kisses. On my shoulders as my shirt came off, on his chest as I pushed his pajama top away, on my thighs as he eased my pants down. When we were finally skin to skin, Dong-wook positioned himself above me, supporting his weight on his forearms so as not to press on my stomach. His eyes searched mine, checking, asking permission even though we'd done this countless times before. I love you, I said, answering his unspoken question. I love you more, he replied, a familiar exchange that still made me smile. As our bodies joined, I gasped at the familiar sensation of completeness, of two becoming one. Dong-wook moved slowly, carefully, his eyes never leaving mine, watching for any sign of discomfort. But there was only pleasure, only the deep satisfaction of being connected to the person I loved most in the world. Minyu, he groaned, his control wavering. You feel so good. So perfect. I wrapped my legs around him as best I could with my rounded belly, pulling him closer, deeper. Don't hold back, I encouraged. I need all of you. He responded by increasing his rhythm, still careful but with more passion, more intensity. His cucumber filled me completely and I moaned softly, trying to stay quiet so we wouldn't wake the children. Dong-wook's hand slipped between us, finding that spot that made me see stars, stroking in time with his movements. The dual sensations were overwhelming in the best way, pleasure building and building until I thought I might shatter from it. That's it, my Omega, he murmured, his voice strained with the effort of holding back his own release. Let go. I've got you. And I did, crying out softly into his shoulder as waves of pleasure washed over me, my body tightening around him. The sensation triggered his own completion, and I felt him pulse inside me as he groaned my name, his face buried in my neck. We stayed connected for a long moment afterward, both of us breathing hard, hearts racing in tandem. Dong-wook pressed soft kisses to my face, my forehead, my cheeks, my nose, my lips, wordless expressions of love and satisfaction. Are you okay? He asked, finally shifting to lie beside me, his hand immediately going to my stomach to check on our unborn child. I didn't hurt you? I laughed softly, turning to face him. You were perfect. As always. He gathered me close, arranging us so my back was pressed against his chest, his arm draped protectively over my stomach. I still can't believe sometimes that this is my life, he said quietly. That I get to hold you every night, that we created these beautiful children together, that you chose to spend your life with me. I brought his hand to my lips, kissing his knuckles. There was never any other choice. From the moment you saved me that night, my heart was yours. And mine was yours, he replied, pressing a kiss to my shoulder. Minyu, do you remember what you said to me that night I almost lost you? When you cried and asked me to just look at you? I nodded, remembering that painful evening that had eventually saved our marriage. I think about that moment often, he continued. How close I came to ruining everything because I was too blind to see what mattered. You saved us, Minyu. You fought for us when I was too lost to fight for myself. I turned in his arms to face him, seeing the emotion in his eyes. We saved each other, I corrected gently. You learned to prioritize us and I learned to speak up about what I needed. We both grew into better people, he agreed. Better partners. Better parents. And better lovers, I added with a teasing smile. He laughed, the sound rich and warm. Definitely better lovers. Though I think we were pretty good at that part even in the beginning. True, I conceded, snuggling closer. But now we know each other so well. We know every touch, every response, every way to bring pleasure. He hummed in agreement, his hand sliding down my side in a familiar caress. Years of practice and dedication. We lay together in comfortable silence, our breathing slowly returning to normal, the afterglow of intimacy wrapping around us like a warm blanket. Outside our window, the city lights of Seoul twinkled, but inside our room, we existed in our own perfect bubble. Do you think we'll ever stop wanting each other like this? I asked quietly, voicing a thought that sometimes crossed my mind. After 10 years, 2030? Dong-wook's answer was immediate and certain. Never. Minyu, even when we're old and gray, even when our children have children of their own, I will still look at you and feel this pull, this need, this overwhelming love. You're not just my husband or my omega, you're my soulmate. That doesn't fade with time. Tears pricked my eyes at his words. I feel the same way. Every single day, I look at you and fall in love all over again. He kissed me again, slow and sweet, a kiss that tasted like promises and forever. When we broke apart, he pressed his forehead against mine. Thank you, he whispered. For what? For everything. For loving me, for giving me a family, for making me a better man. For being patient when I was blind, for fighting when I was lost, for standing by me through everything. You're my everything, Han Minyu. And you're mine, Park Dong-wook, I replied, my voice thick with emotion. My alpha, my husband, my love. Forever. We drifted off to sleep like that, wrapped in each other's arms, our hearts beating in sync, two souls perfectly aligned. This was intimacy, not just the physical connection, though that was wonderful and important, but these moments of vulnerability, of shared emotion, of choosing each other over and over again. As I slipped into sleep, safe in my husband's embrace, our children sleeping soundly down the hall, our newest baby growing inside me, I felt a contentment so deep and complete that it brought fresh tears to my eyes. This was love. This was family. This was home. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.